Hi there, welcome to the Lovefly Fear of Flying Q&A. I'm Paul Tizard. I'm one of the behind the scenes people that looks after this amazing group. Welcome. A couple of important things before we get started. Of course, it is our very own Pete Higgins' birthday today. Happy birthday, mate. And literally, as you've seen by all the messages in the Lovefly Facebook group today, you have a huge following and you're a very popular man, and everybody really, really appreciates what you do. From the checklists that you donated to Lovefly, you gifted all the painstaking work that you did to create the flight checklist and then share it as a gift to everybody. And then you're just literally on the Facebook group every day, posting messages, answering people's questions, spreading positivity and your enthusiasm for flying. So I just want to say thank you so much. I don't know what we do without you. So you are an amazing, amazing guy. And to think your birthday today, I won't tell you the number, but that you've visited 57 countries and you've been flying for 60 years. So there you go. And then even your son is cabin crew for a major airline. So you are pretty much fearless, been on nearly every aircraft type I can think of, and you just bring enthusiasm and passion and just so much zest to all the love flyers. So thanks, buddy. And Pete's also going to be at the Manchester course for those who haven't met him yet, which is running very soon, actually. We're getting very nervous now. Actually, have to do something, prepare. We are prepared. Yeah, so we will meet some of you there as well. I know some people that watch these lives, Fear of Flying lives, the Q&A. One of you even asked a question today, and that's you, June. So I'll come to yours in a second. So a few questions. I also want to say there's been amazing sort of, I put it, I've had two podcasts out this week. The one I want to draw attention to is the one that's gone out today. Which is Captain Deb Laurie. She was the first female pilot to work for a major Australian airline, and her podcast is just brilliant. And I won't give like you always have a story, and it comes back round at the end of the podcast. There's just listen out for that. I just love that bit. So you've got to listen to that, the Lovefly podcast. But also at the weekend, we had the amazing Captain Emma and Brian Morris on promoting their flight deck cards, which are just fantastic. So Brian, when he was talking to me during the 30-day program, he had these cards that he'd written out, and I think afterwards when he linked up with Emma, that she and he started to work on like how could we make these cards available to others. So I haven't seen them yet. I have got a set on the way, but if you know that those two are behind it, then they're going to be great cards for you to update and keep, to help you with your fear of flying when you're actually flying in the moment. So really, really good. But yeah, check out the podcast, Lovefly podcast. So the other thing I want to say is for those of you who are in the Lovefly Facebook group, that we're excited to say that we're nearly up to 5,000 members now. I just can't believe it. So it's registering as 4.9 thousand, which is phenomenal. We just can't believe that the growth that the number of people that are out there, and it's just. And we're really, really grateful for that. But also we know there's just so many thousands because, as you know, maybe you don't know this, but 1 in 5 people have a fear of flying. So that's a lot of people. And you think about the impact of that. So just in the UK, what's that, about 12, 13 million people? It's a lot of people that have got a fear of flying. So let's just not forget that there's a lot of people out there that still need help and maybe haven't thought about this. So please keep recommending us. But the other thing we know with those who are scared of flying is it also rubs off on everyone else because everybody else has to also fly with them or not, if the case may be. So it's really in everybody's interest to be able to deal with the fear of flying and to get that to get it, to overcome it, or even just to manage it. And for some of you, that'll be enough. And it's really important for this. And it's not just about glamour and stuff. It's about choices. This is what we've said all along. The reason why commercial aviation is such a gift to the modern generations, it gives you choices, stuff that you can do, places you can go, people you can stay in touch with, experiences you can have, and memories you can make, which you just wouldn't be able to do as easily. And so it's having the choices, and that's why we love flying. And the other thing that we always advocate, and we absolutely know this to be true, and I've seen this personally over the 25 plus years that I've been working with nervous flyers, that you've got to keep chipping away at the fear. And if you keep chipping away at it, don't give up on yourself, you will overcome it. It's as simple as that. It's the thing that often puts people off is that they lose hope or they want results too quickly. And it does take, 30 days plus to start to see those changes come through, which is why we launched the 30-day program, because we wanted to give you something that you could do every day, 10 minutes a day, a video or some audio information that helps you to chip away at it. And if you tie that in with the process of overcoming your fear generally, and have a plan over sort of 2 to 3 months, as you've heard in many of the podcasts, and I hear time and time again, I did a great interview at the weekend on Saturday it was, with somebody who was talking about beating their fear. And it was just brilliant, because she literally sort of spelled it out exactly how she went about overcoming it, going on the 30-day program. She even did the webinar as well, which was, the instant download webinar as a reinforcer, but she absorbed and went through meticulously all the podcasts. So she was doing about 30 minutes to an hour every day, which is quite intense. But in the space of 3 to 4 months, she completely changed her outlook on flying. So I'll let you know in that podcast out. But that story, it comes out time and time again. So I really encourage you, don't give up on yourself, because, like I always say, you weren't born with the fear of flying. It's learned, and it's never too late to learn something else. There you go. Boom, boom. Okay, so quite a few questions from Agatha this week. Thank you. And I'll try and get through all those. And also a question from June, who's coming on the Manchester course next week, end of next week. Oh my goodness, end of next week. And so the question is around takeoff and landing at Geneva. And she's asked, she said, obviously this is a difficult takeoff and landing. Are only experienced pilots allowed to do this? So this is an interesting question, and I've heard Captain Emma answer similar ones to this, and also Captain Steve. So the reality is, when pilots take off, they have instructions about everywhere they're going to go. They have their planned diversions. They have places they know they could land if they need to along the route. Every pilot does this every single time, okay? So theoretically, if that was a suitable place to land, they would have to land there, and they would have instructions of how to land there, okay? But what tends to happen is that most people, when they are working out of certain airports, so for example, if you had, I don't know, think of an airline that flies out of Geneva, British Airways, those pilots will get used to flying in and out of there, and they'll have instructions how to do it. So although what might seem like difficult to us, they'll have really clear routes that they follow. So it's not like every time they rock up and go, oh my goodness, what we're going to do about this one? They'll know well before they take off, and they'll prepare. And there's certain airports in the UK, for example, like Leeds, and lots of people say, oh, Leeds is really windy, it's got terrible wind, and but the pilots when we used to run courses with flights and take off there, we used to run a couple. The wind, we always just think, oh my goodness. And sometimes it would be like outside the limits, and therefore we wouldn't take off until that we were within limits. But the pilots that were landing in and out of there are just used to it, and it's not a big deal for them. They're just sort of going, yeah, no problems. So you've got to just think of the mindset of so all the pilots are going to be flying anywhere around Europe. they're all going to be experienced pilots. And they'll have a more experienced person with them in the left-hand seat, but they're both equally capable of doing these routes. So I hope that helps. Obviously, if I was a pilot, I'd give you more piloty language, but that is what I've heard them say many, many times. Just going to have a quick look on the doodah. So the other thing I was going to say was that Agatha, you've asked some questions here, and I think this is great. So I'm just going to say thank you very much for asking. You've asked some really detailed ones. But so the first one is, are aircraft examined after a bumpy flight or turbulence? And so the first thing is they're examined after every single flight. That's no difference. Okay, so that's exactly the same. They're always examined because that's part of the sort of the checks that are built in. If the pilots have said, "Oh, we had a bit of a bumpy one," they would just mention it, and the engineers, when they do a walk round, will be then just looking around. But the aircraft are built to resist, and they're super strong. They're constructed to fly through turbulence, and it's not a big deal for aircraft. They're much stronger than Mother Nature will ever throw at them. So when they're going around checking it, even if you have what you consider to be a bumpy flight, it just feels worse for us. But the pilots at the front, it's not as bad for them. So because they've got their ability to look at their instruments and see how much or how little it actually moves. And also they've got forward vision as well. So they can help them. So they have more of a mental model of what's going on compared to what you would have. So for you, it's always imagine it's a lot worse. You think, oh, because the aircraft's being shaken apart, it needs special checks, but it doesn't. It just has checks. But if the pilots say, oh, we had a turbulence for 2 or 3 hours or something, like they just go around and have a look like they would normally, but they would just have this in their mind. So Agatha was asking, so on the subject of turbulence, there are aircraft being made to be more protected and resilient to turbulence. They don't need to be any more protected and resilient. What I think you're talking about in terms of systems is that we'll probably get cleverer at detecting turbulence, and we will have more sophisticated ways to predict it. There are very exciting ways that they do it now, but reality is aircraft are not bothered by turbulence, so it's not kind of a big deal. But there are certain aircraft where you feel like they sort of ride the waves a bit better, and that would be your larger aircraft. And it's the same way we've always said, if you're on the sea, large ship versus small boat, which of those is going to ride the waves more comfortably? And it's the same up there as well. So a massive A380 could go through the same patch of air as, say, I don't know, some of a much smaller aircraft, like a very small, like Embraer or something, and you would have a slightly different experience of it. But not necessarily, because again, as a nervous flyer, you exacerbate what's going on anyway, and you would be imagining much worse than what is actually happening. Okay. So the last question you've asked about was that when you flew around Europe, because of the Schengen system, I hope I've pronounced that correctly, that you didn't have to show your passport. And the reason for that is, well, first of all, it's treated as one country. So when you're flying around, it's like flying if you're in the UK, you could fly from sort of Manchester to Edinburgh, and you wouldn't need your passport for that, although perhaps some Scottish people might like you to, but you don't currently. So it's a sort of a safe, it's part of the same country. The other thing is, nothing in commercial aviation is done without a hell of a lot of thought and planning. Literally nothing. So even if you've got some sort of great idea about how you could speed things up, or you could do something different, anything that involves commercial aviation in the international community takes forever. It takes lots of consideration, meetings, thought, debate, backwards and forwards, approvals, sign off, check-in, regulations. So even though this might seem like it's a bit like relaxed. It hasn't happened without massive amount of thought. And so the straight answer is it's fine. There's nothing to worry about. It's not a security risk. It's considered. And if it was, then things would be changed again. So anything like this is always monitored. So hopefully that was useful to you. And thank you again and for tuning in and watching. So just to sort of mention it, the podcast today was Captain Deb Laurie, and I'm really hoping you get a chance, if you haven't already, to have a listen to that, because it's a real corker of an episode. So take care. And again, happy birthday, Pete.